Hong Kong's history is rich and complex, shaped by its geographical location and the influences of various powers throughout the centuries. Here is a brief overview of the major events and milestones in the history of Hong Kong. Early history. The area now known as Hong Kong was inhabited by indigenous tribes for thousands of years. The region came under Chinese control during the Qing dynasty, 221 to 206 BCE, and remained under Chinese rule for centuries. Imperial China. During the Ming dynasty, 1368 to 1644, the area of Hong Kong was primarily used for fishing and salt production. It gained prominence as a trading port during the Qing dynasty, 1644 to 1912, attracting merchants from Europe, Southeast Asia, and China. British colonization. In 1841, the British Empire, after the First Opium War, gained control of Hong Kong Island under the Treaty of Nanking. The neighboring Kowloon Peninsula was later ceded in 1860 under the Convention of Peking. Hong Kong served as a strategic trading post and naval base for the British Empire in East Asia. Japanese occupation. During World War II, Hong Kong was occupied by the Japanese from 1941 to 1945. The occupation was marked by hardship, atrocities, and the loss of lives. Post-war development. After World War II, Hong Kong experienced rapid economic growth, transforming into a major manufacturing and trading hub. Industries such as textiles, electronics, and manufacturing flourished, attracting migrants from mainland China in search of better opportunities. Handover to China. The British lease on the new territories, a large area north of Kowloon, was set to expire in 1997. Negotiations between the UK and China resulted in the Sino-British Joint Declaration in 1984, which stipulated that Hong Kong would become a special administrative region, SAR, of China. On July 1, 1997, Hong Kong was handed over to Chinese sovereignty, marking the end of British colonial rule. One country, two systems. Under the principle of one country, two systems, Hong Kong was allowed to maintain its capitalist system and a high degree of autonomy for 50 years after the handover. This arrangement aimed to preserve the city's way of life, legal system, and freedoms not enjoyed in mainland China. Umbrella movement and pro-democracy protests. In 2014, the Umbrella movement emerged as a pro-democracy protest against Beijing's decision to tightly control the nomination of candidates for Hong Kong's chief executive position. The movement advocated for universal suffrage and sparked ongoing debates over political reform and autonomy. National security law and current situation. In 2020, the Chinese government imposed a controversial national security law on Hong Kong, bypassing the city's legislature. This law has significantly curtailed civil liberties and led to a crackdown on dissent and pro-democracy activists. The history of Hong Kong is vast, and this overview provides a general understanding of its major milestones. It is worth exploring further to gain a more comprehensive understanding of this dynamic city and its unique position within China and the global community. The history of Hong Kong is rich and complex, shaped by its unique geographic location and historical events. Here's an overview of its history. Early history. The area that is now Hong Kong has been inhabited since the Stone Age, with evidence of human presence dating back to over 30,000 years ago. It was part of the Chinese Empire during various dynasties. British colonial era. In 1842, after the First Opium War, the Treaty of Nanking was signed between China and Britain, ceding Hong Kong Island to the British. In 1860, the Kowloon Peninsula was also ceded, followed by the new territories in 1898, which were leased to Britain for 99 years. Japanese occupation. During World War II, Hong Kong was occupied by Japan from 1941 to 1945. It was a period of hardship, marked by widespread hunger, forced labor, and brutal treatment. Post-war recovery. After the war, Hong Kong went through a period of rapid economic growth and development. The influx of refugees from mainland China, particularly during the Chinese Civil War, contributed to its population growth and economic expansion. Handover to China. In 1997, the lease of the new territories expired, and the sovereignty of Hong Kong was transferred from Britain to China. The one country, two systems principle was established, allowing Hong Kong to maintain its capitalist economic system and some degree of autonomy for 50 years under a high degree of autonomy framework. Return to Chinese rule. Following the handover, Hong Kong became a special administrative region, SAR, of China. It operates under the Basic Law, a mini-constitution that guarantees certain rights and freedoms not enjoyed in mainland China, such as freedom of speech and assembly. Umbrella movement and protests. In recent years, there have been significant political and social movements in Hong Kong. The umbrella movement in 2014 and the pro-democracy protests in 2019 to 2020 were sparked by concerns over increasing mainland Chinese influence, demands for democratic reforms, and calls for greater autonomy. National security law. In 2020, China imposed a controversial national security law in Hong Kong, bypassing the local legislative process. The law criminalizes activities considered subversive, secessionist, or colluding with foreign forces, leading to concerns about its impact on civil liberties and the rule of law. Today, Hong Kong remains an international financial hub with a high degree of economic freedom but is also grappling with ongoing political tensions and debates about its autonomy and future. Hong Kong has a rich and complex history that spans several centuries. From its early days as a small fishing village to its status as a global financial hub, Hong Kong has undergone significant transformations over time. Here is an overview of the key events and periods in the history of Hong Kong. Early history. The area now known as Hong Kong has evidence of human habitation dating back to the Neolithic period. However, it was during the Tang dynasty, 618 to 907, that the region became part of China's territory. Over the centuries, Hong Kong remained a small fishing village and a haven for pirates. British colonial rule. In 1841, the British Empire, after defeating China in the First Opium War, obtained the island of Hong Kong under the Treaty of Nanking. The territory expanded over the years, with the addition of the Kowloon Peninsula in 1860 and the new territories in 1898, both through lease agreements with China. Development and growth. Under British rule, Hong Kong underwent rapid development, becoming a major trading port and center for commerce. The city's deepwater harbor, strategic location, and favorable business environment attracted entrepreneurs and investors from around the world. World War II and Japanese occupation. During World War II, Hong Kong fell under Japanese control from 1941 to 1945. The occupation brought significant hardships, including forced labor, famine, and widespread suffering among the local population. Post-war reconstruction. After Japan's surrender